The challenge for the Republican Party in the state of Nevada, turning this state back to a red state. And a guy that would like to be a part of that is John Kovacs. He's a candidate for Congress in Nevada's 3rd Congressional District. He's an America First conservative. He's a contractor, civil engineer, and he joins us now. John, how you been? Thank you so much for joining us. I really appreciate it.
Kevin, thank you very much for having me. I appreciate you giving me the time and opportunity to discuss my candidacy and why I feel I'm going to be a phenomenal candidate and a phenomenal choice in Nevada's 3rd Congressional District for this upcoming November's election in 2022.
I want to ask you, because it's a question I ask every candidate that comes on the show, especially when they're just kicking off their candidacy, and that is, I know it's a lot of work. It costs a lot of money. It's a lot of time away from your family. And why are you going to the trouble? What is it that pushed you over the edge to where you said, I got to run against Susie Lee?
Kevin, I have to tell you, it's everything you just said and more. If you're not committed, if you're not dedicated, this is not for you. I'm a contractor. I own a construction company. I'm in business 30 years. I moved to Nevada 6 years ago to expand my construction company. Prior to then, the only experience I had, I was a political outsider. I was on the school board in my hometown, and when I was very content with the direction that President Trump was taking the country. I know he was getting fought at every turn, but nonetheless, we were going in the right direction. Upon the inauguration of President Joe Biden, what he did, killed the Keystone. He rescinded the Keystone XL pipeline, and then immediately thereafter, he started to systematically undo some of the a lot of the border protections that President Trump had in place, and from there it just kind of went downhill after that. And I was fuming, frustrated, like everyone else when I saw that happen. And unfortunately for me, I was in a position. Or I am in a position where I'm equipped with my background that I could actually do something about it in terms of getting involved and making a difference. And that's what I did, and that's what I chose to do. And the funny story I tell everybody, if at some point you throw your slipper at the TV, I was running out of slippers and I was running out of TVs. I had to do something.
I love that. I love it. One of the things that the big challenge is coming up with somebody who can beat Susie Lee. Susie Lee has been an ethics nightmare with the story about the stock trades and all of that, and being late on reporting and things like that. What do you know about Susie Lee relative to that? It seems as if she doesn't take the rules and regulations very seriously.
No, she does not. I know beginning in early 2020, she had a special PPP carve-out for her husband's business. I'm very familiar with that. She's been in the headlines recently for delinquently reporting over 200 stock trades. It's one thing to delinquently report one or two, but 200, I'm not really understanding how that happens. And some of those trades were actually reported as being favorably in her favor just prior to the COVID-19 pandemic hitting. That in and of itself would be one thing, but it really doesn't end there. The most egregious is she doesn't even take a position seriously. That person was celebrating at the Cosmopolitan dressed up as a boxer at a costume party on 9/11. Horrifying. The rest of the country is in national mourning on the 20th anniversary. She's yucking it up, having a good time. This is someone who should be really admonished for that type of behavior and that type of conduct. That's the most egregious of all. It's horrible enough that the financial scandals are there, and the only time you ever hear of her speaking about, whenever she comes up, it's always in the context of her helping out herself. It's never in the context of her helping out others. I mean, I don't see her on the top of the Hoover Dam looking down and saying, hell, where's all the water? Nothing like that. She's not that vocal in anything, but the only time she comes up is when she's at a party. She was, in California not too long ago at a fundraiser for Nancy Pelosi. No mask. Everybody's supposed to be wearing a mask. She's not. Cosmopolitan, same deal, having a good time. You start to wonder if she really has her heart in it anymore, and who she really there to serve, herself or us. And that's really what, policy differences are policy differences, but it's more than that. She really has kind of carved out a niche for herself as someone who really is not capable of running this, of being on Congress and and participating in running of the country, really. And that's really why I'm running. One of the reasons why I'm running. And I think that she is extremely vulnerable as a result of that. People see. How could you be? If you're a congresswoman, the entire country at this particular point in time is not exactly going good for. And everybody recognizes, including Chuck Dodd, who had a lot to say about it on Sundays on his Sunday broadcast. And the guys are very much a Democrat. And in spite of that, she's kind of oblivious to all of it. So, no, she really needs to go, and I'm very confident that in this upcoming election cycle that the voters in my district will make the right choice and do the right thing and for once and for all get rid of her.
Again, John Kovacs joining us, candidate for Congress in CD3, trying to unseat Susie Lee. Does she vote with Nancy Pelosi? I don't mean to ambush you. You may have a number, you may not have a number, but there's always that number that they voted 97% with Nancy Pelosi. Do we have any numbers on Susie Lee and how she voted?
Yes, she doesn't not vote with Nancy Pelosi. She does vote with Nancy Pelosi. She's going to vote with Nancy Pelosi on the $3.5 trillion Democratic proposal. You definitely know about that.
Do we know that for sure, by the way? Has she announced? Because normally they don't announce until they actually do the vote. Well, we're still evaluating, they always say, and then they take it right down to the wire, and they, usually about 3 a.m. Washington time, they end up doing the vote.
You're 100% right, but you know what? Nancy Pelosi is very confident, and her statement was recently that she feels she's confident she has the vote. So, I mean, who is she counting on? Some hardcore Republican? No, she's counting on her people and her caucus.
I got to ask you about money. It is expensive running for Congress, and I'm not sure if you're self-funding or if you're accepting donations, but talk a little bit about the challenges in a very busy political time. I mean, you look at the race for governor, and there are a bunch of people lined up around the block. You got folks in CD3 and CD4. Can you talk a little bit about the fundraising aspect and how difficult is it being a guy that's kind of a political outsider?
Absolutely. Speaking of which, we are fundraising. We're always looking for donations. We have a website, kovexforcongress.com. Go to it. Please donate. And on there we have a lot of issues that we also talk about. We have a Facebook page, and on that, we same deal. We're asking for donations. Go to our Facebook page. Make donations. You're going to like the content that you see on our Facebook page. It's going to resonate with the people. And please donate. So in that respect, yes, we're certainly asking for donations and things like that. However, as you know, it's extremely expensive, and a lot of people, they don't realize some of the costs that are involved in running a campaign. And like I said, fortunately, in my respect, I'm in a position where I could we all need money. I mean, if Michael Bloomberg taught us anything, all the money in the world is not going to get you elected. So you all need money, and more importantly, you need money from the people who are going to vote for you, because that's where the confidence comes from. People in the district have to really give money to the candidate. It doesn't matter that you could raise hundreds of millions of dollars like some of the senators people do, all outside the district. And then when it comes time for the election, that money doesn't exactly translate into votes. So the money aspect, because you have mailings and you have television ads and commercials and all kinds of stuff going on. Yes, you need it for that, but more importantly, a lot of people that you see, especially recently in the last 5 years or so, 10 years, everybody's trying to get money from outside the district. We got to really try hard to get money from inside the district, because that money translates into hard votes. The money outside the district, it'll buy a TV commercial, but it's not going to get you a vote if people don't like it. So, it's an uphill climb. You have to be able to balance the money and not lose sight. A lot of people think it's just a big thing, but it's just a big fundraising type of effort. It's not. At the end of the day, it's not is not to see who raises the most money, it's who garners the most votes. And you have to be smart about how you're spending it, where you're raising it, because people have gotten in trouble for who gives how much money raising from outside the district if you raise too much from outside the district. So you got to be really, as a candidate, it's not just about raising money. It's where it's coming from, and is it going to translate into votes for you, and is it really coming from the people who are supposed to be elected? Because then they feel like they've been left out of the state. They've been disenfranchised because all the people who gave money towards your campaign might be outside of their district. So it's a balancing act, and thankfully, I was very fortunate to have very smart people on my staff who are very adept at that balancing act, and we're doing a phenomenal job.
John Kovacs is the name. He is a candidate for Congress in Nevada's 3rd Congressional District, and I know a question that I'm going to get a lot from listeners over the course of the next few weeks is, John Kovacs, is he a conservative? Are you?
Absolutely. My tagline is American Exceptionalism, and I believe in it because I lived it. My parents came here, first-generation Americans. I'm a first-generation American. They came here to follow the American dream. I'm living the American dream. And the reason I'm living the American dream, and my brothers are living the American dream, and my parents were fortunate enough to do that, is because we embraced what this country was about. We embraced the founders of the country. We embraced the work ethic, the values, the morals of the country, and the culture of the country. We embraced, and that put us on a path to succeed. You can't succeed in a place that you really don't believe in, and one thing about American exceptionalism, you believe in yourself, and the people that came before us were individualists, and they had nobody else to help them. They didn't come here and right away some NGO gave them some money and a pizza. No, they came up here, they looked at it, it's like, okay, there's nothing to eat, I got to feed myself, I got to feed my family, I got to support myself. And out of that determination and that philosophy and that idealism of American exceptionalism, that's where that comes from. And we were all at one time it was all innate. We all had it, but now there's a big push to kind of curtail it and quash it, if you will. So and that's kind of why I'm speaking up. And you'll see it's all over my entire campaign. Believe in American exceptionalism. And, of course, all the conservative values that go along with it.
I want to ask you, because this is important relative to your race, and that is when you go out in CD3 and you're talking to voters, give me the top 2 things they want to talk to you about.
Without a doubt, the number one thing by far, election integrity. I hate to say it because it's so true, and people are like, I don't want to vote. I'm afraid to vote. My vote's not going to count. And then they say, "What are you going to do about my vote?" And we've been to me and my campaign. And I, we've been to a lot of workshops and things like that, learning about what we can possibly do. Do we file another lawsuit? What do we do? Do we? There's currently some litigation already going on in the state. Do we tack onto that? The election integrity is huge, because it wasn't transparent in the last election, not just in our state, but people turned on the TV, and quite frankly, you didn't have to be a rocket scientist to see it happening right in front of you, and people are extremely frustrated by that. And the other side doesn't make it any easier by kind of trying to thwart some of the oversight when you have a poll watcher say, "Hey, can I see those ballots?" and somebody says, "No, you can't." I mean, what does that tell? What is that? How does that help anybody's the credibility of the election? So hopefully we could get that cleaned up. I know there's a big push to get that cleaned up prior to the election, and hopefully that'll happen. And the next thing that you hear a lot about, and I'm sure you could probably guess, critical race theory in the school district. Horrible for the kids, and the only silver lining of the COVID-19 tragedy is that the kids were learning remotely at home. parents are overlooking or watching over their shoulder, seeing what's on the computers, and they're scratching their heads and say, "You got to be kidding me. I cannot believe they're teaching you this garbage, or they're teaching you this perspective or this point of view." And it's, the three things: reading, writing, arithmetic. I'm a civil engineer, and I like to think of myself as being super, super smart. I know a lot about accounting. I know a lot about finance. I have banking relationships literally all over the country. I was able to move and start a business from one state to another in a place where you're not really welcome that hard, that openly, and nonetheless still succeed. And you do it on reading, writing, and arithmetic. You don't do it on complaining or being a victim or some of the other things that you hear propagated on the television on a nightly basis. So those are the two things that really people are very concerned about. The older people, election integrity. The younger people, critical race theory.
Wow. John, in our final minute, if folks want to reach out to you, you say you need money. I'm sure you need volunteers and yard signs and all of that stuff.
We need them all. Go to KovexForCongress.com is my website. Follow us on Facebook, John Kovacs for Congress. We have a phenomenal Facebook page. We talk about all the issues. And one other thing I want to get in there is drugs and the opioid crisis. That's something that turns my stomach, and that's something I really want to help. Our children and our citizens are being killed. It's poison. Fentanyl it's killing us. And you know what? You almost feel like it's being done by design. Like they're killing your kids, and all of a sudden all these unaccompanied minors are coming across the border. It turns your stomach. And as a parent, everybody's a parent out there. Who the hell wants to see their kid either succumb to drug abuse, or worse yet, just be a zombie? Nobody wants that, and that's something that one of the other things that I'm really going to be vocal. I'm not going to be quiet about anything. I'm going to be an extremely vocal congressman for the right things for the people. And the other thing too, by the way, we don't have any water in our state. That's another thing I'm going to really, really tackle.
John Kovacs, best of luck. Safe travels as you move across CD3. We'll be keeping track of you, and I'm sure we'll talk again. Thanks so much, man. I appreciate it, and best of luck.
Thank you very much for having me. I really appreciate it. Remember, KovacsForCongress.com. Thank you.
There you go. John Kovacs, candidate for Congress in CD3. Stay where you are. More to do as we continue. I'm Kevin Wall. Good to have you with us on AM 670 KMZQ.